Okay, we're going to try this recording again, and we'll see if it works. We are trying to, what I want to do here is make sure everybody understands why I have you guys draw zones. So this week I marked up the SPY and the QQQ over the weekend, and I wanted to know where should I be able to take levels to, whether it goes up or down. And to do that, you draw basically three zones, right? What's above, what's below, and where you are. And the purpose of this is to know when a chart breaks, if you're long, and you should get out. If it does break down and then reclaims, if it comes back before it hits the next level of support, then obviously there's some buying there, and that's very bullish. So it bounced before it should have. If it breaks out and fails before it reaches its next resistance, there's a problem to the long side, right? And so what you want to do is after you draw a zone, 1, 2, and 3, you actually want to zoom in to zone 2 and figure out zone 1, 2, and 3 within that zone. Right? So zone 2 will have a zone 1, 2, and 3 within it. And so here, these are all my lines that I came up with. And I want to just show you how I came up with these lines. This is what the chart looked like. There's nothing on there. I said, and again, today's candle wasn't here. I said, you know what, let me look at exactly where we are. Right? And it looked like, I'm going to make this a 2-minute chart. It looked like this, right? This was the previous day's volume. So all I did, oops, let me full screen it. Okay, it looked like this. I'm just looking right where we are, right? Okay, this was Friday. There's some big levels, right? You know, you start coming in here, you start marking it up. There's some big levels, right? You see all these people right here, right? There's some levels here. And this is all zone 2. But then what I did was I said, you know, it looks like between, you know, these people down here and these people up here, there's some range. We can make some money within that range. So within zone 2, let me actually zoom in. So I said, well, let me look at just the very end of the day. What was that level towards at the very end of the day? You can see it's right here. Right? And so you know that this 467 is pretty important. Right? You know that if you get above this level here, what do you probably have range to? Well, you probably have range to get back up to this big, thick VP line here. I don't know if it's visible, but let me, there we go. Oops. And this is zones within zones. And just to very clearly understand what's happening here, if 467 begins to break, right? You can see this lower one here. If this begins to break, what should happen? We should push down and away. Okay? If 467.34, you know, holds, then we should have room back to this level. Okay, well then what happens after that? Well, you've got a chunk of people right here. Right? And so then we're going to have to fight through them. So let me show you what that looks like when it actually happens. So this is today's action over here, right? So we know that if we get into these people, we've got a chunk we got to get through. What happens if we break over this chunk of people? It should go to the next level, which is up here, right? So these are all zones within zones. I don't care if you call them zone A, B, C, Q, R, Z, Bob, Sally, Lisa. I don't care what you do. You have to understand that within the zone, when price breaks above, it should go to the next zone. If it doesn't, there's a problem. Then if it does, you should expect some consolidation. And if it's consolidating within an air pocket, you're going to create new VP lines that allow for double top, triple top breaks and goes. That's what consolidation is. Okay. So there's your consolidation, right? There we go. Consolidate, break. Now, let's bring this back to the main chart here. Like all these lines were drawn before today. What happens when you're drawing your lines correctly is stuff hits the levels. Reject, right? Reject. Retest, right? Retest, right? We're starting to reject in here, right? All of this over here. This is when you know you're drawing your lines correctly. And the only thing you have to do is literally zoom in to get zone 1, 2, and 3 within zone 2. And then on zone 2 on the bigger time frame chart, like a daily, like if I'm looking at this on a daily, what I'm thinking here is, all right, I would say, and again, there's no right or wrong way to do this. If you wanted to say this was zone 2, this is zone 3, great. I don't care. If you wanted to say this is zone 2, right here, let me actually change this color. If you wanted to say all this is zone 2, fine. That's fine. But just know that you need to zoom in and get zone within the zone. So does it matter what's zone 2, zone 3, zone 1? No. None of it matters. It's just a simple way to let you guys know support below, resistance above, zone 1, 2, 3. If you come down into zone 1, you buy. If you break up over, does that make sense? And so I don't have zone 1, 2, and 3 on my charts. Like, it doesn't matter. What I have are lines. I have more important lines and less important lines. And what it lets me do is I visually see this literally. Like, I literally see zones. And so today, my goal was to take things back to 471 to 472. 471.50 to 472. We did that. This was my goal for today. And we did it. We took it from here to here. So now, pretending we closed somewhere around this range, I'm going to be looking at this being the zone that we're in. And to the long side, what am I going to say? If we get above this 472.72, we got range, right? We got range all the way up here to 474 to 475. I think we're going to have another range to this level. Where do I get that 472.72 from? Again, all you do is you come back in and you figure out who you're playing against. And if you look at this chart on a 3-minute, this is the SPY. What is it? 472.72. I'm gonna go to a 2-minute chart here, and I'm gonna try to zoom in and see if I can find it. The people that we would be playing up here previous to today. Who do I need to look at? If I'm up in this area, who do I need to look at? Well, just move your freaking thing back until you see people. It's right here. All right. Now let me zoom in. I'm sorry I'm coughing so much, guys. I was crawling underneath the desk and got dust all in my face. And so let's zoom in. All right. Just looking at this zoom, where would I know for a fact that everybody is happy? Once we get above what level would I know everybody that has bought within this level has either stopped out or is going to be holding, right? You can see it. It's right here, right? It's all these. It's all this, right? So here's your high side. Here's your low side. So as we start hitting these people, 472, right? Up into this range, this is where the distribution level occurs. If we break over this level, anybody that bought within this time period is either happy because they averaged down and now they're up, or they didn't average down and they've already stopped out, or now they've let it bounce back and they're out at break even. Anybody that was going to sell has sold. They either stopped out, they got out at break even, or they averaged down. But they're done selling. Well, how do we know this? Because we're breaking over. So everybody's happy. Yay. That opens the door to what? Up here. And that's the point of zones and lines, guys. You want to take it from one zone to the next. And when you are drawing zones and looking at support and resistance levels, you need to be able to say, hey, if it breaks this level, I'm gung-ho for it to get to the next level. Once it reaches this next level, we're probably going to need some consolidation. And then if it breaks over that level, I'm game for the next level. And you just continually do this. And this is how you absorb. I've shown you guys so many absorption plays. I'll keep doing it. But on the way down, I'll be doing the same thing. Your first hit should bounce. Your second hit, maybe. Your third hit, maybe not. Okay. Any questions on this at all? Larry says, check out GS where I was going. I think all that. Yeah, no, I think Goldman Sachs is a great one to get in if you're not in it, and I think Bank of America is a good one too to try. We got in these last week, but Larry, do you see why I was absorbing Apple before your level? You had 179, right? I told you, nah, brother. 181, 180. Those are your levels. See, this is how you know when you have your VP game down strong. You're right all the time, like me. Oh, Larry, I'm just messing with you. So you absorb down to zone 1. It's a great question. So the idea of zones is once zone 2 breaks, I'm not touching it until it gets into zone 1, right? To the long side. So if zone 2 breaks, so here, Apple. Apple's a great example. Apple, there was some absorption that could have happened within these ranges. But in between these lines, I'm not touching it. So let me shrink this down. On Apple, Larry's like, hey, I'm waiting till 179. I got my VP game down. I'm not waiting till it comes. I'm not buying till it gets in here. That's his buy, right? And I said, Larry, come on. Nah, bro. We need to buy a little earlier. Why? Well, because there's VP support, a ton of it, right here. I will not buy it in between here. I will not buy it in between here, right? I will not buy it here, right? You know what I mean? Like these are the ranges. So the important thing to understand is you absorb within a range that is tight. That's what provides your protection. When it breaks below, you stop out. But very rarely do I ever get where I hit a level and don't bounce. At least initially. Now, does it roll over like that sometimes? Absolutely. That's the way stocks move. And so, as far as zones go, what I want you to take away from this is zone 1, 2, and 3 is simply to help you understand you need to figure out where the stock breaks and it's going to go to the next support level, where the stock breaks out and it's going to go to the next resistance level, right? Zone 1 to zone 3, right? And then within the zone 2 that you're playing, you can get really tight and find zones within that zone. And that's why you see so many levels and lines on my chart. So what do you guys think I'm doing right now, currently, on the SPY? I am distributing. I am distributing up into this zone. Why? Because we were all the way down here. This is distribution. Until we get above it, that's when it becomes support. Now, as I zoom in to the SPY, and I look, and it's like, well, shoot, maybe I want to buy at 470. Right? Now that we've broken up and above, now it's 470. Looks really nice to try to buy some more, right? Coming back down into this support, like if we came back and retested this level, I'd love it. Now, what if we don't? Well, you could say from 471.50, 472 is support. You've got some VP there. So if you wanted to try that, great. But for me, I would not be buying in between or below 471.48 to right here. I would start buying close to this, and to the longs, I would stop out around this area, right? So if you wanted to try to accumulate on a little back test right in here, great. Just realize this is very close. We're doing a 1 minute chart, very close zones. Okay. All right, I think that's good enough for the zone explanation.